Georgia remains unbeaten. Missouri gave these boys all they can handle, but Georgia just was able to find a way to pull out this win. And at one point, there was a time during this game where it felt like Missouri was going to be able to pull off this historic upset, because it's really hard to win on the road in Athens. Okay, Missouri's defensive line was getting after Carson Beck for a good duration of this game, and this is probably one of the worst performances that we've ever seen out of Georgia's offensive line when it came to pass protection, because for the first 3 quarters and a half, Missouri's defensive line had Georgia's offensive line beat. And Carson Beck, he didn't really have his best performance. But Georgia, to their credit, after midway through the 3rd quarter, this offensive line woke up and they started to get the better of Missouri's defensive line. Missouri offensively, they had the performance that I expected them to have. Their wide receivers were carving up Georgia's secondary. For some reason, Georgia's secondary just could not stop the back shoulder throw. Every time Brady Cook and these receivers went back shoulder, Georgia's secondary had no answers for it. And even then, Missouri's final couple of possessions, they literally were going 4 verts. And they were literally only trying to get the back shoulder because that seemed to be the only thing that was working. Brady Cook, he had an okay game. But at the same time, the thing with Brady Cook is that in big moments sometimes, he can make some boneheaded decisions. And he had a couple of them. He gave the ball away. He had a couple of really dumb interceptions. The Nazir Stackhouse interception, I don't know how much blame I can put on him for that one. I think that was just a great play by Nazir Stackhouse. Anytime you're a defensive lineman and you can come away with the football via interception, that's a great play on your behalf, because most of the times those big boys aren't in positions to make those kinds of plays. All right, but the interception that he threw on Missouri's final drive, which sealed the game, I don't know what the hell he was thinking throwing that pass. But outside of that, I felt like he had an okay performance. But anytime you're trying to beat Georgia on the road, okay isn't going to cut it. You're going to need exceptional quarterback play to beat Georgia. And Missouri wasn't able to get that out of Brady Cook. Yes, he was able to extend plays and make things happen with his legs on the ground. But to beat Georgia, you need a quarterback that can completely dissect this defense. And you need wide receivers that can challenge this secondary. And Missouri had that. You know, Luther Burden was making plays on this secondary. Their other wide receivers had a good performance. It's just Brady Cook in the critical moments of this game where Missouri really needed him to step up and keep them alive and give them an opportunity to win. He came up short. And I don't want to use the whole cop-out that Georgia just was the better team and they were going to prevail. No, like, Missouri had several opportunities to win this game. They just weren't able to capitalize. Georgia, even though they don't got Brock Bowers, one of the best players in all of college football, they still are finding ways to win. And with this win against Missouri, I don't see how you can't say they deserve to be ranked #1 when the new college football playoff rankings come out this week. Missouri is a really good team. This is one of the best seasons that Missouri has had since they first entered the SEC. And when they went to the SEC championship game, their 2nd season in this conference. Georgia beat a really quality team, and they deserve a lot of credit for this win. You probably expected them to blow out Missouri. It didn't happen. Georgia isn't going to blow out every single team they play. This isn't the same Georgia team that we've seen the previous 2 years when they won back-to-back national championships, and that's okay. They don't need to be that. All they need to be is the best version of the 2023 Bulldogs team. And with this win, this still shows me that they still should be the front runners to win it all this year, and I still believe that they're going to three-peat. Now, they're really going to get tested next week when they play Ole Miss, because Ole Miss has the best offense that Georgia's going to face all season. Even in the SEC championship game, which looks like they're going to most likely play against Alabama. But Alabama's offense, I don't think is as good as what Ole Miss is. Jackson Dart is playing some really good football. Ole Miss has a really good offensive line, and they're super deep at wide receiver. And Georgia fans kept making it seem like the secondary was still performing at a high level. No, the hell it hasn't. You got carved up by Vanderbilt. Obviously, you had a really good performance against Florida, but Florida just didn't have the talent that Missouri had at wide receiver. And even Vanderbilt looks like their wide receivers may be a little bit better than Florida's. Florida's offense is fairly young when it comes to their skill position. Meanwhile, Missouri, they got a lot of great veteran wideouts on their team, and they were exploiting Georgia's secondary. And if you're a Georgia fan, I don't get how you can't feel a little bit concerned about this secondary going up against the SEC's second best passing attack. I would just be a little bit nervous. Yes, you are going to have the home field advantage, but if Missouri can give you a dogfight like how they did this afternoon, there's no reason why Ole Miss can't do the same. The only difference is that Missouri actually has a defense. I don't know if Ole Miss is going to play any defense when they play you. But even then, you got worked up front by Missouri in this game. I can't recall the last time in the last 2 years I can say that Georgia, for the first 3 quarters, got dominated up front, but Missouri was giving it to the Bulldogs' offensive line and their defensive line. They had success running the football too. Georgia isn't the same dominant team that we've seen in the last 2 years, and I keep trying to reiterate that to people. This defensive line doesn't have 3 future first-round picks on it. You don't have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Nazir Stackhouse is your best defensive lineman. Outside of that, you know, you got some talented athletic freaks there, but you don't have anybody that looks like they're going to be first-round material in next year's draft. This Georgia team is not as complete as a lot of people may think. And I've watched a lot of Georgia football over the last couple of years. I live in the South. That's why I'm always talking about Georgia so much. But Georgia fans got to stop making it seem like this team is just completely flawless. Because anytime you try to criticize this Georgia team, they say, oh, we're 9-0. That's all that matters. Listen, you can get the right answers to a math problem, but that doesn't mean that the way you're going about it is always going to work. Eventually, when the problem gets more complicated, the way that you went about getting the answers the first time may not work. Georgia got tested against Missouri, and Missouri exposed a couple of flaws that I think Ole Miss can be able to take advantage of, and we're going to discuss that on Tuesday's episode of JT Sports Live.